Hello! In this video, we're going to continue thinking about the grammar of our logical language. We're going to learn about parsing trees and main operators. So we've had some examples of complex conditionals. We've seen that we can use parentheses to avoid ambiguities in our We've seen that we can use parentheses to avoid grammatical ambiguities in our logical language. We've learned about the grammatical rules for our logical language, and we've learned about official and informal notation. Now we're going to learn about parsing trees and the main operator. So let's get going with that. So what is a parsing tree? Well, so our grammatical rules tell us how we can build up sentences. So here's an example of that. We might start with P, which is a sentence letter, and so it's a sentence according to our first rule that says all sentence letters are sentences, and Q is also a sentence letter, and so it, by this same rule, is itself a sentence. Our second rule says if you have two sentences, you can put an arrow between them, parentheses around them, and form a new sentence. So let's apply our second rule and build P arrow Q. Good, now that's a sentence. What about P? Well, P's by our first rule is a sentence, and so now we have two sentences, P arrow Q, parenthesis P arrow Q parenthesis on the one hand and P on the other hand, and our second rule says, look, if you have two sentences, you can put an arrow in between them and put parentheses around them, and you get a new sentence. So this is what's called a parsing. This is a tree. It's upside down, but it's a tree that shows how the thing at the top was built up from the pieces. First we took P and Q, put them together to build P arrow Q, then we took P and put an arrow between it and the P arrow Q, and we built a sentence at the top of the tree. So it's called a parsing tree because it shows the parts of the thing at the top, and in particular, it shows how the thing at the top was built from sentence letters in stages. And we could keep going with this. They could get much bigger if we wanted to build a really big sentence. In fact, our rules say don't ever tell us you have to stop. So if we wanted to, we can just keep building bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger sentences. One thing the parsing tree does not do is tell us whether or not this sentence is true. Is the sentence if P only if Q, then P? Is that sentence true? Who knows? It depends upon whether or not P and Q are true and how the conditional works, which we actually haven't even said yet exactly. So we have no idea whether or not this sentence is true. What this tree displays is just that why it is a sentence, how it was built up according to the rules that makes it a sentence. It does not tell us whether or not the sentence at the top is true. We could use it to try to figure out whether or not the sentence at the top is true if we also knew other stuff like whether or not P was true and Q was true and how more details about how the arrow works with its meaning. But we haven't said any of that stuff, and so this just displays here's why this thing at the top is a sentence. Is it true? Is it false? Those are further questions. Okay, so that's the idea of a parsing tree. Pretty straightforward. What about a main operator? This is going to be really useful. The idea of a parsing tree and the idea of main operators are going to be really helpful in doing symbolizations, and we're also going to have some activities that focus just on breaking sentences into trees using main operators. So this is going to be really important for a bunch of your homework. Okay, so what is a main operator? Well, we're going to look at some examples first. So we have this first sentence, P arrow Q, and in that sentence, the main operator is just the arrow. Why is that? Well, because we added that arrow to P and Q to build that sentence, right? How do we build parenthesis P arrow Q parenthesis? We took P, we put Q, and we stuck that arrow in between them, and that's what makes it the main operator. What about parenthesis P arrow Q parenthesis arrow R parenthesis? The main operator in that case is the arrow on the right, because that's the arrow that we added to build the sentence that we're looking at there. P arrow Q is already a sentence, R is already a sentence. We take them and we stick the black arrow in between them, and that's what builds to make the thing we're actually looking at. It's what we added last. It's what we added to other stuff to build what we're looking at, and that makes it the main operator. On the other hand, with the last sentence, parenthesis P arrow, parenthesis Q arrow, R parenthesis, the main operator is the arrow on the left. Again, it's the black arrow. Why is that? Well, because to build that sentence, we took P, which is already a sentence, and we took parenthesis Q arrow R parenthesis, which is also already a sentence, and we added to those things that are already sentences, we added that conditional, that arrow sign, to build what we're looking at. So the main operator is that left arrow because that's what we added to other stuff to build what we're looking at. So the definition of the main operator, if we have a sentence box, then the definition of it is it's the operator that we added to two other sentences to form box. So in each of those cases, we have a sentence. Maybe it has multiple arrows in it. Maybe it has only one. If it has only one arrow, the main operator is just that arrow. But if it has multiple arrows, then the main operator is the main conditional. It's the conditional that was added last in building the thing we're looking at the top of that tree. It's what we added to other stuff to make the thing we're looking at. And because our language is not grammatically ambiguous, that means that each sentence of our language has only one main operator. And that means if you remove the main operator and its parentheses that come with it, you're going to have exactly two sentences, the sentences that you added the conditional with to build the thing you're looking at. Okay, so we got these two new concepts. The idea of a parsing tree for a sentence shows how the sentence was built up from sentence letters, might take a while, might be short. And we have the idea of the main operator of a sentence, which is the, in this case, conditional that was added to other sentences to build the sentence that we're talking about, the sentence we're looking at. We're now going to use those concepts in our next videos to actually do some logical work. So let's go and see what that's all about.